What's up, Planeswalkers? Welcome back to the Only Lens channel, where I cover cool and interesting decks, share knowledge, and discuss everything Commander. I'm really excited to share this week's deck with you guys. This is my Shrek deck. This is the first deck I'm sharing that I actually have in paper, and it's helmed by Grismold the Dreadsower. So our plan is going to be to give out gifts, uninvited, unasked for gifts to everyone, and then we're going to kill them all, and Shrek is going to get really big and then just start beating people's face, because you know Shrek doesn't like uninvited guests in his swamp. So we have all those little magical creatures that we're going to give out, aka plants, and then we're going to murder them all, and Shrek's going to get giant, and then Shrek is just going to stomp everyone. So this is my Shrek deck. I really enjoy this guy. It's a really fun twist on Voltron. Giving out little gifts that then are not actually gifts is a really fun little mini game. So Grismold really cares about tokens being on the board, and it doesn't matter if there are tokens or someone else's tokens. He just wants a lot of tokens on the board, and then we're going to kill them all, and he's going to get giant and start murdering people. So I'm going to go over our additional token makers. We have Field of the Dead. Just being able to make tokens anytime we play a land is very useful. Forbidden Orchard, we don't mind if our opponents have the tokens, because they're all going to die, and it's going to grow our Grismold. So any way that we can put bodies on the board, token bodies on the board for free, is great. Genesis Chamber, again, we don't mind giving tokens to other people, because they're going to die, and they're going to make our commander large. Tend the Pests, this is like kind of a protection piece as well. Like if someone tries to kill our Grismold once he's like a 20/20, 30/30, we just sack it, get a huge board state of pests, and then when we replay our Grismold, we can kill them all and just regrow them right away. Tribute to Hirobi, the front side of this is going to give our opponents tokens, and then it's going to flip into a 3/3 flying haste, so it's a nice flying blocker. We don't have a lot of those, and it's a little bit of card advantage. We're always going to have a token to sacrifice to this, even if, let's say our opponent sacrificed the rats, or we killed the rats before it flipped, something like that. We'll always be making plants with our Grismold, so this is a nice little source of card advantage as well as token generation. And then we have Scepter of Celebration. Stick this on Grismold, and we're going to be like doubling his power every turn, essentially, because we're going to hit, we're going to make a lot of tokens, we're going to kill those tokens, it's going to jump him up in power. The trample isn't necessary here, but that's fine. Wand of Orcus, giving Grismold Death Touch is really busted, because trample and Death Touch is ridiculous if you don't know how that works. Essentially, when you have a creature with trample and Death Touch, you only need to assign 1 damage to any blockers in order it to be lethal damage. So even if they block with a 20/20, and our Grismold is very large, we only need to assign 1 damage to that creature, and then the rest is going to go through, and then we're going to make a bunch of 2/2 zombies that we can kill and grow Grismold, and then we have Seed the Land. Again, we don't care who gets the tokens. As long as we're putting tokens on the board, we're happy. Next, I'm going to go over our token wipers. So this is a key part of the strategy. We got to give tokens out, and then we got to kill them all and make Grismold really big. So there are kind of 2 schools of thought in terms of the token wipers in Grismold. A lot of people like to use these like Illness in the Ranks and Virulent Plague type effects that are kind of constant, and they make it so anytime a token comes in, they're going to die immediately and grow Grismold. I still play Illness in the Ranks because it's so efficient, but I honestly prefer to use effects that are like kind of a one-time thing. I think the play pattern just works out a lot better if Grismold stays small and isn't scary and then gets giant out of nowhere. So I prefer effects like the Meat Hook Massacre, Golgari Charm, Massacre Worm, Massacre Girl. We have Bloodline Culling. This one can also just kill a larger creature, which is nice. Engineered Plague. I like being able to choose which tokens I kill, so I also have Plague Engineer. We have Toxic Deluge and Pestilence. So Massacre Girl, the Meat Hook Massacre, and Toxic Deluge also serve as our board wipes for this list. So these are going to allow you to get a bunch of tokens all over the board. We're going to be filling it up. People aren't going to really know what's going on. They're going to be like, oh, you're giving me so many creatures. This is so great. Grismold's just going to stay 3/3/4/4. And then we drop one of these one turn, kill all the tokens immediately, and Grismold's going to be like a 30/30 right off the bat. And we're just going to one-shot people. That's the main goal of this deck. I prefer these one-off effects that just do it. They kill all the tokens. Boom. Grismold's giant. We start smashing face. Get out of my swamp. I'm Shrek. Alright, and then I'm going to cover our backup win cons. We do have a little bit of an Aristocrats sub-theme, just to get that last bit of damage if Grismold isn't able to trample over and kill everyone. So we have Blood Artist and Poison Tip Archer. I prefer these over the Zulaport Cutthroat things. I think it's really important that if you're playing Aristocrats effects in this deck, you want them to trigger anytime any creature dies, not just creatures you control, because we're going to be giving out a lot of creatures. So a Zulaport Cutthroat would only trigger once per from the tokens Grismold makes, but Blood Artist is going to trigger 4 times. Same with Poison Tip Archer. Also, we don't need the damage to be spread out. We're fine with it being one person, with Blood Artist, because Grismold is going to be commander damaging 2 people probably if we're winning at least, and then the Aristocrats is kind of to finish up the 3rd person if Grismold can't do it himself. And our final backup win con, we have Revel in Riches. So again, we're going to be killing a lot of our opponent's creatures all the time. We're giving them small tokens. We're going to kill them all. This is just a nice backup win condition. For when we play that token wipe, we kill 10 of their things, get the 10 treasure, and if they can't remove this or kill us or destroy our treasure, we're just going to win the game right there. Now I'm going to go over our extra growth category. These are things that are going to buff up our Grismold more or just make it so he gets in easier, hits harder, stuff like that. We have Shizo, Death's Storehouse, so this is going to make target creature gain fear, which means it can't be blocked except by artifact or black creatures. Basilisk Collar, as I already mentioned, Death Touch is pretty awesome with Grismold because only 1 damage for each blocker, pretty great. And then Lifelink, some incidental life gains, always useful. Hardened Scales, anytime a token dies, Grismold's now going to get 2 counters. Hardened Scales and the Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, these do the same thing. I found these more useful than the branching evolution type effects, because we're only ever adding 1 counter on Grismold. We're not adding multiple at a time, so these are going to essentially double our counters. Same with Winding Constrictor. And then we have Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. This is going to double up on Grismold's the death trigger from tokens. Whenever a token dies, Grismold gets the counter, so this is going to double up on that to make our Grismold grow faster. It's also going to double up on all our Aristocrat stuff for our backup win con, as well as some of our card advantage being based on creatures dying. And then finally we have the Skullspore Nexus. This is a new ad that I'm really excited about for this deck. It's always going to be 2 mana. Grismold gets to 6 power so easily, it's not even funny. So it's only ever going to be 2 mana. We can double Grismold's power, and then if someone ever does remove Grismold, we're going to get a giant token out of it. For card advantage, we have Castle Lochthwain. We have Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is great in any token deck. It's going to give us a lot of card advantage. Idol of Oblivion, our commander makes a token every turn, so this is going to just draw us 1 every turn, essentially a 2 mana Phyrexian Arena, very nice. Braids, Arisen Nightmare, we will always have tokens to sack, and if our opponents sack the tokens, then our Grismold grows, and if they don't, we get to draw cards, so win-win. Morbid Opportunist, just a nice little, Aristocrat draw thing. Species Specialist, very useful, usually going to name plant, but we can name whatever we want. Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, just lets us sack our tokens to kill other tokens and draws us cards in the process, as well as allowing us to proliferate in a pinch if we ever want. Moldavine Reclamation, our tokens are going to be dying, this is going to draw us a lot of cards. Return of the Wild Speaker and Rishgar's Expertise. Grismold's going to be massive, so these are going to draw us 20-30 cards whenever we play them. Very powerful. Alright, and going over our ramp, we have Phyrexian Tower. I know this one's really pricey now. I got this back when it was like $10. I actually got it when I was in Japan. But if you can't afford this, just don't include it. It's fine. Just play a swamp. But, it's pretty useful, and this deck allows us to ramp a little faster. Urza's Saga, this one can find us Skull Clamp, can find us Soul Ring, it can find us the Ozolith, which I'll talk about in a second. So very useful utility land. Also can make us tokens, just kind of does everything we want. Birds of Paradise, Elves of Deep Shadow, Fyndhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, Soul Ring. 1 mana ramp is really awesome in this deck because it allows us to get our Grismold out a turn earlier, so gonna prioritize that for sure. Arcane Signet, Dowsing Dagger. With Grismold having trample, it's really always gonna be easy to flip this thing. Very nice turn 4 play to just play this, equip it to Grismold, attack right away, flip it, play another 3-drop. Golgari Signet, Nature's Lore, Sakura Tribe-Elder, Talisman of Resilience, 3 visits, and Ashnod's Altar. So having sack outlets is always useful, and, making mana is always useful. We know this card's broken. I don't need to tell you. And this is a Voltron deck, so of course we need to have protection for our commander. We have Homeward Path. If you've ever played a Voltron deck and had your commander stolen from you, you know that's the worst thing ever. So Homeward Path, I know it's pretty expensive, but super important if you're doing Voltron. I'd recommend investing in this or proxying this, whatever. Plaza of Heroes can protect your commander, very useful. Malakir Rebirth, Snakeskin Veil, the Ozolith. Of course, if our commander gets removed, we just get to save all those counters, replay him, throw him back on. Great piece of protection. Tyvar's Stand, Alpha Authority, Gaia's Gift, Heroic Intervention, Swiftfoot Boots, Agadine's Awakening. If you can't afford this one, just play a swamp. That's fine. Mithril Coat. Very useful, has flash, gives indestructible, attaches to a legendary right away. Gift of Doom, I love this one. This one is so underrated. I don't see enough people playing it in Grismold. You can morph it down for 3 mana. We're always going to have a token that we can sack. And sacrificing to flip up, morphing, is a special action, which means we can do it in response to someone's removal spell on our commander. We can just sack a token, he's going to grow, we're going to flip this, throw it on him, people can't respond to the special action of morphing, so he's going to be indestructible, we're going to dodge that removal spell, no one ever sees this coming. This card's awesome, and gives Death Touch, which I already mentioned with Trample, is really busted. And finally, our last piece of protection is Not of This World. This is pretty much always going to be a free counterspell to protect our commander. This card does not see enough play when you're running giant commanders. This card is awesome. Definitely one of my pet cards for this deck. Very strong. Alright, and finally going over our additional interactions. So these are things that aren't token wipes that still interact. We have Bajuka Bog, we have Planar Void. These are going to be our graveyard hate. I like Planar Void over something like a Leyline of the Void. Planar Void will exile the cards when they go to the graveyard, but they still allow creatures to die, which is very important. Grismold cares about death. We have an Aristocrats sub-theme. We still need creatures to be able to die in order to trigger our Grismold, but we don't play a lot of graveyard recursion, even though we're a Golgari deck, so I've found this to be just kind of the most effective way to shut down graveyards while still allowing death triggers. We have Pest Infestation, just can wipe a bunch of artifacts and enchantments and makes us a bunch of tokens that will grow our commander. Contest of Claws, our commander is going to be huge, so this is going to discover for a very large amount, very useful card advantage and removal. Ram Through, this doubles as a just player kill spell. If our commander is big enough, we can just fight a little 1/1 token with our commander, and all that excess damage is going to go through because our commander has trample. Tear Asunder, very useful, exiles artifacts or enchantments, and you can kick it to just hit anything. Beast Within, all around great. And Windswift Slice. This is a new one from the Lord of the Rings set. Our commander is going to be giant. This is going to make us a huge board of tokens. I really prioritized having interaction that also makes tokens for us, because that's going to just grow our commander even further. And Strip Mine is our last piece of interaction to answer those Gaia's Cradles and Nykthos and Cabal Coffers that we run into. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this deck tech. I hope you enjoyed my Shrek deck. Grismold is a lot of fun. He's really explosive. I really like the false gifts aspect of this deck. Also, it's a great counter if you have like a Krenko deck running rampant in your playgroup. Grismold just kind of eats up all those like tribal token strategies alive. So if you've been struggling with the Krenko deck or something like that, or an Elves deck, try out Grismold. This guy's really fun. And yeah, thank you guys for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like and subscribe to my OnlyLands for the spiciest deck content on the internet. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you next time.